Welcome back to the Compressor Guru. Today we're going to do something for my health. Folks, I made an announcement last month about I had a little bit of surgery, took a tumor out. And I want to tell you there's no cancer in my family. And I look at the way I've lived with my hands in fuel oil, gasoline, washing parts, using a coarse wire brush to grind off asbestos-laden gaskets in the old days, and generally mistreating my body. Since then, I've heard the phrase, if it's on your skin, it's in your body. And I'm looking at some things. We purchased another piece of equipment, but today we're going to look at getting rust off some stuff. So instead of getting on a wire brush to try to get rid of some rust, and maybe getting a nick on a finger from a coarse piece of wire, or even have a wire hit me in the face, or worse yet, the eye. I do wear glasses. I do wear some safety equipment. That all being said, I'm going to try to live a little better for the remaining work years I have left. There are 100 videos out there doing what we're doing today, but we're going to do something different. We're using electrolysis to remove some rust off of two old wrenches I got. And I got these wrenches this way. I bought some equipment out of it was an estate sale. And I bought the equipment and they said, "You want those wrenches?" I said, "Sure." The one that's in the water right now is a Blue Point. And the Blue Point is the cheap brand from Snap-on, and nothing from Snap-on is cheap, including Blue Point, but it's at least a little more affordable. And that actually does work. You can adjust it. It's pretty square. And the other one is a Proto 20-inch crescent wrench. Crescent's a brand name, but that's also the type of wrench it is. And it is inoperable. So the first one we do is going to be proof of concept. Now, we've already prepared the water with the soda, and we've got everything wired up. We've got our positive and our negative hooked up. There are plenty other videos that will walk you through this step by step, but here's the one thing they aren't doing. And quite frankly, I would have done this at home in my basement, because water at the house is a little easier than water at the shop. But when you do this process, hydrogen gas emanates off of the water, and I didn't want to fill my basement with hydrogen. So there's a lot of things you got to be careful about here. So we are going to put the power to this, and this is proof of concept. Everybody else takes a 2 to 10 amp battery charger, the old-fashioned kind. They take the 2 to 10 amp battery charger and set it up and run it for 24 hours. Well, we're going to turn this on. This is proof of concept here. We're going to turn this one on. We got it set for 2 hours on the timer, or we're going to when I turn it on. And we're going to run 200 amp through it instead of 10 amp. I don't have a clue what's going to happen, but we are in the end of the garage where it's easy to get out, just in case.
Folks, his shirt says Bud. However, his voice is saying, "I'm Tim Taylor and I'm using more power."
Don't make us pay his copyright. So we're going to turn the power on, and I decided I'm going to tell y'all a story during the fast forward section of this. So I want to give you a life lesson. Now, you might think it's a joke, but it's a story. So, and this applies to this situation because the smart sparrow is in Florida, awaiting the cold weather for the other sparrow stuck here in PA. So, there's this bunch of sparrows, and they're all thinking about heading south for the winter so they don't die up here in the snow. And this one sparrow says, "Wait a minute, I can take the cold. I'm going to stay up here and I'm going to winter here. I'm not going to
spend all that time and energy traveling back and forth. So all the buddies took off. They head south. They're in their motorhomes. They're flying, whatever they're doing. Anyway, the electric guru has a big old motor coach. Anyway, so the sparrows are flying south. And this one sparrow, he's up here. It's, October, getting to be November. It's some Indian summer. Life is pretty good. Not too cold, not too hot. Life is good. And then it gets to December. And it gets cold. We have some snows, but he's sticking around. Then it gets to be January, and it's not just cold, it's real cold, and there's lots of snow. And he's sitting around shivering, and he's going, I should have gone south. It's not too late. I'm going to leave now. And this little sparrow, he takes off, and he is heading south as fast as he can, but it is so cold, his wings won't even work. He's like icing up like an airplane would, and he's like, oh no. And he's flying along, and he sees a big old field, and there's a cow in it. And he lands in this field. I'm too cold to fly. I'm going to lay here and die. This is the end of the rope for me. And the cow sees what's going on, and the cow walks over and, looks at the little sparrow and turns around and takes a big old dump on the sparrow. And the sparrow's like, no! Anyway, so the sparrows, they're going, oh, what an awful way to die. I'm going to freeze to death in a pile of poop. And then the sparrow goes, hey, this isn't too bad. I'm starting to get warm. I may not die here. Sure, I'm covered in crap, but and he his head's out of it, and he realizes he's not going to die, and he starts singing away. Well, what else was here by the field in the hedgerow beside this big field was a cat. And the cat's looking at this bird and sees everything that just happened, and the cat walks over and pulls the bird right out of the poop and eats him. Now, there's some morals to this story, and I'm going to share them with you now. And one of the takeaways from this is not everyone that craps on you is your enemy. Lesson 1. Lesson 2. Not everyone that pulls you out of a pile of crap is your friend. Okay, and there's one more. And I'll wait for just a dramatic second so you can try to figure out what the third lesson is. That's it. Time's up. If you're warm and happy, even if you're in a pile of crap, keep your mouth shut. Well, we don't usually tell stories like this, but because I'm the winter-bound sparrow, that's why we told you. And the sparrow that took off for the south is the electric guru, Eric. He'll just be Eric for the rest of this conversation. And that's why we told you this story, because Eric was the smart one. He jumped in his motor coach and went south here about a month ago. So moving on, we did 2 of these wrenches. You only saw the video for one wrench. That was the first one. It wasn't as bad. We do have a second wrench. It was much worse. We did it, and it came out wonderful. But the chemistry for the first wrench, all we did was we put Arm & Hammer super washing soda in, and we didn't understand why the higher amps didn't work. We started watching some videos, and different videos on YouTube. It is a great way to find information. Unfortunately, there's a lot of bad information. Kind of like me with this, because we're just doing an experiment here. We got some good information. We learned some things. There was some bad information that we had to work through. Why didn't the higher amperage make this go accordingly faster. What we actually needed was higher voltage. And what I learned by talking to Eric, the electric guru, was Ohm's law. Now, we have some numbers here, and those numbers tell us that we use 12 volts, and at 5 amp, at a resistance of 5, because of his mathematics here, he shows us, we were able to put about 2.4 amps through the solution from the wrench to the sacrificial piece of iron. If we would have used 24 volts, we would have been able to push about 4.8 amps and probably doubling the speed at which the derusting happened. Now, the chemistry can be different, and my limited understanding of chemistry is pretty limited. Eric at least had some in college. I had one course in high school, and that was mandatory. And quite frankly, I remember very little of it. I was really a math guy. Chemistry, biology just didn't really click in my mind like the math did. But the chemistry, it's the solution that allows the rust atoms to move, because we did put this in plain water at first and it did nothing. Now, I didn't run it very long, but as soon as we changed the water and put the super washing soda in it, as soon as we put the electric to it, we started getting bubbles, which was telling me that the chemical reaction was happening, where we were breaking hydrogen atoms loose out of the water, and it was obvious that the water was changing colors in short order. So that's my limited understanding of the chemistry. Now, when we did the second wrench, we did take some readings of the resistance using an ohm meter in the water. Now, the plain water was, we didn't get a good solid reading, but it was 1.5 to 2 ohms. We put the super baking soda in, and it jumped up to 3 on the resistance, or 3 ohms. And Eric would correct me 6 ways a Sunday. By the way, we did a phone recording, and it was horrible. I'm wondering if I should start a second channel reviewing apps that don't work. And no, I'm not. That's not what I do. That's not my expertise. Anyway, so we did, he would be correcting me on my verbiage, I'm sure. We put baking soda in and stirred it up. By the way, we used 8 ounces of super washing soda in 8.5 gallons of water, and we went from 1.5 to 2 up to 3. And I put baking soda in, and we dropped the resistance back down towards 2. And then I put 4 ounces, not 8, of regular table salt in, stirred it up, and our resistance jumped up to 5. Now, after my conversation with Eric, we want the least resistance, but we have to have a solution to let the rust atoms or electrons move from the wrench to the sacrificial steel or iron. So the numbers we have here, the 12 over 5 equals 2.4 amps for the 12 volt, as opposed to the 24 volt power supply. 24 over 5 would be 4.8 amps. But the amperage would have made it move faster if we had higher voltage. But the problem is we don't understand enough about the chemistry to say, okay, this chemistry gives us a solution that will best let the molecules move from the tool to the sacrifice. And folks, leave it in your comments. Please comment if you can explain this better to me, or what we can use for a solution. I don't have anything else to derust right now, but please leave comments, because this is something I don't understand. Now, we got away. We did it. We derusted both these tools, and I'm happy with them. The one I'm going to hang on the wall, and just first, because it's, quite frankly, the one that was worse, when we got all the rust off it, we found some other problems with it. We got it working, but looks like somebody beat on it with a hammer on the jaws, and the jaws are deformed. The other one's probably going to go in my toolbox. This is probably the last derusting episode we do, just for, trying something out, saving an old tool. But I really am interested in the chemistry. I did think about maybe copper plating the one I was going to use. And when I started researching that, boy, the chemistry and the everything required to do the copper coating really made me think twice. It's not what I do. I'm the compressor guru. I do compressors. And anyway, that's the word from the electric guru. And if we would have upped our voltage using Ohm's law, we would have multiplied the effectiveness of how quick we would have done it, maybe, because we're still at a quandary wondering about the solution and what actually lets the solution work. So if you understand the solution, the process of the electrons moving in this type of rust removal, please leave a comment. If you don't understand it, leave a comment and say, gee, I don't get it either, bud. Folks, I thank you. Like and subscribe. We have one other episode coming where we're going to show off a new piece of equipment we got to try to save chemicals leaching into my body through my skin. And in an older episode, I showed off a new tool I bought, snap ring pliers with interchangeable tips that interchanged very neatly. And in person and on the comments section, I did get, we'd love to see more tools. So I have one coming up. We're going to film, and we're going to show you 5 cool tools. If they're new, great. If they're not new, I'm still showing them because I think they're pretty cool. Like, subscribe. God bless. Have a great day.